You ready, bees?
Okay, so today we're going to do another hive inspection. We've got a few things to check for this time. Not so much the things that we've been looking for. We know we have the cat brood. We know everything's good there. We are going to be, obviously, like on any inspection, we want to make sure that we see, eggs being laid. We want to make sure that everything looks good from that perspective. But we also want to check and see how full the hive actually is. I've brought down a second box. Second deep brood box. So normally the rule is about 70%. So when they fill up about 70% of the frames, right now there's 9 frames in there because we've got one that's missing because of the frame feeder. When they get 70% full, that's when you want to add the second box. You'll recall that from the day the egg is laid till the day that it actually emerges from the cell as a young bee is 21 days. So we probably won't see any young bees emerging right now because it was later in the day when we released the queen. So it'll probably be later this evening or tomorrow. And that's also assuming that she went to work laying right away. There may have been a little bit of a delay for her to get oriented and get things going. So we won't see that, but the point is in the next day or two, the population is going to start to really come up quite a bit. So we want to make sure that they got room to expand and room to grow into. So we're going to probably put that second box on there. We also want to fill that feeder. Again, if we add that second box, they're going to be drawing out a lot of comb. So we want to make sure that they got the resources that they're going to need to draw out that comb and make everything good. Right? Mm-hmm. All right, you ready to go?
Yep.
All right.
I don't see the queen yet. So Dad, is frames still gonna be like glued down again?
Yeah, they'll be glued in place a little bit, but we'll make sure we take care of them.
So they're gonna do it again?
They got a little sugar syrup that'll keep them happy for a little bit.
I see one trying to eat it. They're like, yum.
Yep, they like their sugar syrup.
It smells like lemongrass.
Lemongrass, yep.
So what's this supposed to be?
The thing that I just put on the side?
Yeah.
That's a frame hanger. So that is
What's gonna hang
going to give us a place to put these frames that'll hold it and keep it up off the ground. Which isn't too important with these right now, but especially later when we get to the point where there's comb on these and we're trying to do an inspection, then we want to make sure that
Yes. Don't get mad at us.
yeah, they're fine.
They're taking our hive.
So this was that 5th frame
Yeah.
that they were just barely starting on, and now we've got some larvae in there. We've got lots of nectar stored up in there. They have not started on the back. I would have liked to have seen them.
Wait, is the queen on it?
No, I don't see her.
Yeah, no. It's got a big butt. I don't see them gluing on this. Oh, yeah. This one's good. You see her? Because I don't see her on my side. If she's not on my side.
brood with lots of honey and nectar.
Oh, I was right. I found the queen.
Queen.
Yep. Found this. Oh, they're making 3 of them over here.
So you know what?
But there's the queen
I'm
over
pretty
here.
sure.
The queen's over here. I was right. Yeah. I don't know why they're starting to make that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Maybe they are queens.
So we checked all our frames. Everything looks fantastic. We were able to locate the queen. I did find one section in there, right in the middle of a spot of brood that looks like it's empty cells, which chances are it wasn't empty cells, which tells me we've had some bees hatch. Seems a little early, but it's entirely possible. You know, you never really know. I wouldn't have expected it till later this afternoon, but it's very possible that it happened already. So that means our population is going to come up. They did not start drawing out that 6th frame yet, but I think we're going to go ahead and add this extra box just in case. I checked in the feeder. The feeder's empty, so they definitely drained that. We're going to fill that back up as well before we put this other box back on top. We'll put everything back together, and then, like I said, we won't be here for a week. But when we get back to this hive, hopefully they'll have, you know, filled out a couple more frames in there, or at least started, and then also started on this second brood box.
Okay.
All right, so now we got the frames back in place, so we're going to go ahead and fill this feeder back up. Okay, so again, we didn't have quite as many frames drawn out as I would have hoped, but we're really close, and we do have a lot of bees that are going to start hatching out. So before, like I said, if I was going to be here and I could check on it, you know, in a few days and see how things were going, then I would probably hold off. But since I'm not going to be here for a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and add the second box. So basically that second box is just like the one that's in there, except for we're going to keep the feeder in the bottom, so the top box will have all 10 frames in it. And what will happen is they need more room, they'll actually just move up into that second box and start drawing out comb in those frames as well, and start utilizing that. Right now, the brood chamber where the queen lays her eggs is kind of a almost elliptical or football or circular spherical shape in the middle, like a cross section of the frames. Well, and then around the outside edges is where they store their pollen and their honey. So when we add this second box, basically they'll just expand up into that. So the brood chamber for right now will actually go between both boxes, and the honey will be all around the outside edges as well as the pollen. Once they've drawn those out, that's when we'll put a queen excluder up there and start putting our honey supers on to start collecting honey. I don't know if these bees will actually get to that point this year. Depends on the weather, but we'll see. They're doing really good right now, so it's possible we'll get some. Then as fall rolls in, when it starts getting colder weather, what will happen is that upper brood chamber, though the queen will stop laying eggs there because she wants the numbers of the colony to actually decline a little bit to get through the winter. So what she'll actually do is she'll start moving back into that lower box and only using that for brood, and that's when the workers will start storing all honey in that upper brood box or brood chamber. So, well, technically won't be a brood chamber then, but that upper deep, that's where they'll start storing all their honey, and that's the honey that they need to get through the winter.
Can they access the top box by the bottom box?
Yeah, they can. They'll be the box. So this is the box, and that's the top that looks just like that, and then that's the bottom. So they'll be able to go up and down between the two any way they want. And as a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and put this up there now.
Oh, it's not shiny. You can touch the box.
Well, that's why we put it on at an angle because that minimizes the contact points that we set down on, and now we'll spin it so that if they're in the way, they can actually get out of the way.
You can flush the flies, that's fine. I don't like flies. They're annoying. Let's get it tall.
Alright, so there we go, our upper chamber is on here. I'm going to spray just, not a lot, but just a little bit of sugar water on these frames, just to draw their attention to them and get them to start thinking about moving up there. Alright, so now we got all the frames sprayed down with sugar water, and again that has the essential oils, lemongrass, a little bit of mint, just kind of really, the bees like it, it really draws them to it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push these together a little bit better and get them organized a little bit closer to the way they should be, and then we'll be done. Okay, so we've got everything in there. We've got the frames. We've got the extra frames stacked up. I'm actually going to show you guys what that looks like. So the frames are just in there, just like they were in the other box, except for it's just a second layer up on top. And as a matter of fact, you can see we've already got some bees. Okay, so everything seems good. They're happy. We've got the frames, the upper brood chambers on there now. We've already got bees moving in there a little bit, checking things out. That's great. We're going to go ahead and put the screen cover back on and the roof, get them closed back up. Hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, I'm Greg.
I'm Nate.
And we're beaking out.